So it's my pleasure to introduce Serge Raemaekers. He's in the EGS, so Environmental and Geographical Sciences department. And he's been living and working in South Africa for years. Speak louder. Okay, I'm going to project my voice a little bit. So he's been living and working in South Africa for years. He has over 15 years experience working with fisheries and agriculture. And has been a big part of putting together the national plans of small-scale fisheries within South Africa. And he's going to be talking about the project that he launched last year, looking at that. So, without further ado.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I've got a sort of tough job this afternoon to keep you captured and thrilled just before, on a Friday afternoon, just before a long weekend. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to speak loudly and I've put in a lot of pretty pictures. I think we actually need to switch over those lights. That's better. Great. So I'm Serge. I'm not from South Africa, but I've been here for a very long time, like Brian mentioned. And I work in the Environmental and Geographical Science department as a researcher. I've got a natural science background, but a lot of my work is centered around social science, and in fact most of my work is really centered around this interface between natural science and social science. The title of my talk is towards transformation of the small-scale fisheries sector and transdisciplinarity at UCT. So I'm going to hone in on some key concepts, some key buzzwords actually. Transformation out there, and transformation within our university. And transdisciplinarity in our university here. Okay, I'm going to read this first to get you a little bit curious. The Abalobi initiative is an open, transdisciplinary and social learning endeavor bringing together various stakeholders with traditional fishers taking the center stage. It's a participatory action research program with a strong community development interface. Abalobi has a free application and programs aimed at social justice and poverty alleviation in the small-scale fisheries chain, transformation in the way we produce knowledge, stewardship of our marine resources, and resilience building in the face of climate change. Many of our team members, including the small-scale fishers of South Africa, were integrally involved in the design of South Africa's new small-scale fisheries policy, which emanated from a constitutional court order and international human and fishing rights obligations. Abalobi brings us together as an extension of our research, advocacy and policy work and launches us into implementation and corporate components. Okay, well, that's a lot. I wrote this one evening after a few glasses of wine and I tried to bring everything into one paragraph. But I want to put it out there because one of my colleagues said, well, hey, that's what we're doing. You know, you've got to say this in one paragraph. That's what we're trying to do. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of key things that we're trying to embark on. There's a lot of social change in what I've just read out to you. And of course, with this talk, I want to try and convince you that we're on some kind of pathway towards doing exactly that. Of course, it's as every initiative, we are pretty much at the starting ground. We don't have all the answers, and I want to say this right from the beginning. We certainly do not have all the answers. And of course, opportunities like this one, seminars like this one, outside of my own department, are a good opportunity to engage with other researchers, with other students, with other people, and think this through. So I'm going to be giving you a quick background. I'm going to say, well, why are we doing this? How are we doing this? I'm going to zoom in very specifically on Module 1. I'm going to talk a bit about computer science and rope in Brian wherever I can, because I'm going to talk a bit about architecture. I'm going to talk about uptake, that's where it gets exciting, and of course we're going to end up with some discussions and some suggestions for collaboration. But let's start. Okay, look at this graph. This is a graph from the FAO, from the Food and Agricultural Organization, a United Nations body that sort of tries to bring together ideas and data around fisheries world over. Now this is the catch, the recorded catch, okay, world over between the 1950s and a few years ago. And as you can see, in the 1970s, there was a massive industrial development and increased catches, and you can see it sort of started leveling off from about the 90s. Now, what's important about this graph, I'm going to give a whole talk about just this graph here, But what's important is that 80%, so there's also aquaculture, don't worry about that right now, but 80% of this light blue catch is caught by small-scale fishers, by artisanal fishers, by traditional fishers. Okay? So it's 80% of about 80 million tons of seafood. Now, small-scale fishers, of course, are a cornerstone, are a livelihood strategy for many people living in rural communities, people living along the coast. It's a source of employment, it's a source of food security. Now look at this one. Okay, I'm going to stop showing you graphs after this one. This one is famous, and there are all sorts of renditions of this one. There's more doom and gloom predictions around this. But this just gives you an idea of what the status is of our stocks out there. I'm 100% sure each and every one of you has seen newspaper articles about the end of fishing, has seen this jellyfish burger that in 2050 we're all going to be eating jellyfish. And that's sort of based on an interpretation of this graph. And as you can see here, the percentage of overfished resources is increasing. We are optimally or fully fishing a whole bunch of other stocks, a whole bunch of other populations, and the percentage of underfished, underutilized resources is decreasing. Now, that graph is used even more than the one before. It's used by hundreds of conservation agencies to raise alarm bells, to say, guys, we need to stop here. We need marine protected areas, we need to privatize rights. What they don't tell you about this graph is that this graph doesn't represent all the fisheries from the previous graph. This graph only represents 440 stocks that are actually assessed, that are actually go through proper data gathering processes. 440 stocks a year, okay? There are many more out there. Only 5% of what you can see here, okay? Only 5% of it are actually small-scale fisheries. What I'm trying to say is, we know nothing about small-scale fisheries. We think we do, because we extrapolate from this type of information, but we actually know very little about small-scale fisheries. But we've got very little data. All the data, all the information sits with the fishers, okay? And of course, even more importantly about this graph is that you can well imagine that hardly any small-scale fisher has even been part of gathering information to produce such a graph at worldwide level. Okay? That's the other key point. If we know very little about small-scale fishers, hardly any small-scale fishers have been part of this process. Yet, global endeavors, global initiatives come back to get this one as starting point. Okay, now that I've set the scene, I'm going to dive straight into South Africa. And in South Africa, we have a whole host of small-scale fishers. From Port Nolloth at the Western Cape, all the way to Coastal Bay in KwaZulu-Natal, with of course a high concentration of fisher communities in the rural areas of the Eastern Cape and the former homelands. Now, prior to 1994, of course through our history of colonialism and apartheid, small-scale fishers didn't feature. They didn't feature in any policy document, they didn't feature in any government program. In fact, all the fisheries laws prior to 1994 were all linked to commercial and recreational fishers. Small-scale fishers were illegal, to put it simply. They were informal, they were considered as illegal. Okay? And as a result, extremely marginalized. And in urban areas or in the Western Cape, some small-scale fishers found jobs for the commercial industry, which you can see sort of here. So that's the situation prior to 1994. We've got this large number of small-scale fishers. We still don't know today how many there are. Okay? And some of them are fishing for resources in urban areas, maybe with a post office permit, a recreational permit. Okay? And quite a few, especially in the Western Cape, work as crew for the whites industry. That's prior to 1994. Of course, post-1994, high expectations of transformation, high expectations for many small-scale fishers across the country that they would finally obtain legal access. They would finally obtain recognition for their traditional fishing practices. Now, in our neoliberal economy, trying to maintain economic stability with a fisheries authority that really was set up to deal with commercial fisheries and not necessarily small-scale fisheries, with a lot of the science in the fisheries authority geared towards commercial fisheries, not necessarily geared towards very complex small-scale fisheries. Our post-apartheid fisheries transformations kind of failed. It's kind of failed. Yes, some small-scale fisheries obtained individual commercial rights for a particular resource, but many small-scale fisheries were left out. From not even featuring and knowing that there were rights applications to many fishers not even being able to fill in quite complicated forms. Okay? All of that led to serious protest actions, some pictures right here. And in 2004, a group of fishers with support from various NGOs, support from this university, from people from my department, from myself, and we went to court. We went to the Equality Court and we argued that post-apartheid fisheries transformation had failed to recognize the needs, the characteristics of small-scale fisheries. Judge Erasmus, a constitutional judge, ruled in our favor, or ordered the Fisheries Authority to go back to the drawing board. Okay? To go back to the drawing board and develop a new dispensation, a new policy, a new paradigm, governance model that would, of course, try and address this and redress some of these imbalances. Now, the development of this small-scale fishing policy is probably the most exciting initiative I've ever been part of. It's probably the most participatory development process that South Africa has ever seen. World over, people have been looking at this. I mean, this could be a whole talk in its own. That policy was gazetted in 2012. Yeah? So, from court order in 2007 all the way to a policy in 2012 and 2016 now, of course, fishers still didn't have legal access, and the Fisheries Authority gave them sort of a mini version of a commercial permit, which we call an interim relief permit. The policy was gazetted in 2012, and it still took up to now, up to last week, or 2 weeks ago, for the act that governs our marine resources and the way we use marine resources to be amended. And that act was only amended 2 weeks ago. Okay? It's all systems go now, the policy is about to be implemented. And this is something that many fishers have been waiting for a very long time. Many fishers have died waiting for this. If we go out there and we try and sort of figure out what it all looks like, of course, living in South Africa, we have these traditional fishers, some have commercial rights, some have these sort of once-off yearly permits, and we also have organized crime. Now, the small-scale fishing policy is pretty much a radical paradigm shift to any way we've managed fisheries resources before. It's not really looking just at fishing rights, it's trying to zoom out and link fishing rights or the use rights of a resource to a human rights approach, trying to see, well, how are all these other concepts around gender, around equality, around food security, around socioeconomic development, etc., are they all linked in a complex fisheries system? It's about not allocating individual rights, but it's about allocating community fishing rights. Okay? Many small-scale fishing practices are very much community-driven. It's about trying to recognize that. It's about recognizing a community fishing area, a traditional fishing area. Many fishers have sort of their particular area that they've been fishing for generations. It's about trying to recognize that and provide some type of preferential access for fishers. And then it's about co-management. It's about not just the fisheries authority based in Cape Town here and saying what's what and what's allowed and what's not allowed, but it's about trying to find ways where fishers and government can work with one another. Now that's not easy, but it's about that. It's about trying to find a way to instill, to enable stewardship of our marine resources. Okay? Of course, there are a whole host of implementation challenges around capacity of government, capacity out there, and a lot of my work, a lot of our work over the last couple of years has been to not only try and think through all these implementation challenges and develop an implementation program for this policy, but try and think, well, what are some of the tools that we can develop? What are some of the practical tools that we can develop to enable this policy, to give this a bit of a boost, to stimulate fishers and the government, of course, to gear up towards this implementation. This is where this project comes in. Okay? So Abalobi is an app, but it's not just an app, it's a process that we feel can help achieve some of the goals of the small-scale policy, or at least it can stimulate stimulate us thinking through and trying things out. Yeah? It's not my idea necessarily, it's our idea. I've been working with fishers in South Africa for the last 12 years, 13 years, all along the coast project, social science research projects, and really for developing long-term relationships with many fisher communities along the coast. And a lot of the ideas that I'm going to talk about now, a lot of the concepts behind a lot of this here are requests or ideas from fishers themselves. Okay, this is critical. What is Abalobi? Well, Abalobi is Xhosa and it means fisher. Okay, it's actually a name one of the fishers gave to the system because they felt they wanted to sort of develop some type of, they wanted to attach some type of ownership to this thing. This is ours. And what is it? It's an integrated catch management system for small-scale fisheries. Integrated catch management system for small-scale fisheries. We're trying to make this a one-stop shop. Okay. To allow to access all sorts of components around fishery, from fishing and weather, all the way, of course, to the market. So it's already said it's an app, but it's also a process. It's actually much more about the process than about the app. Okay? And it's free. Okay? It's at no cost to small-scale fisheries, otherwise it would never work. And we're trying to use, like so many people out there, we're trying to use low-cost smartphones. Why? Because that's the only device, that's the only tool that many fishers actually have available. And what is different to many of these more citizen science projects where people out there record data is that in this particular case, fishers own the data. I don't own the data, government doesn't own data, fishers own the data. They direct how this data is used and what happens with this information, who they share it with. That's a critical component of it. Now, just looking at this graph, sort of this overview, about half the population in South Africa has cell phones, and in fact most people have 2 cell phones. If you go out there, I mean this project would have never worked 10 years ago, but if you go out there, even in some of the most rural communities, people have basic smartphones. I mean, you know this more than I do, because this is part of the work you are involved in. But even I was looking on Takealot yesterday, a basic smartphone with Android KitKat, 440 Rand. Okay? So things are becoming very accessible. Coverage is becoming better and better, and many fishers are engaged in social media on their phones. They I would say, completely embrace this technology, but they are engaged in this technology. Okay? Now let's get back to some fisher activities. Often when I speak to people who are not familiar with fisheries, they think that fishers just try and go out there every day, catch the most fish, and obviously try and make the most money. That's often the paradigm associated with fishers. But for small-scale fishers, it's not like that. It's about survival. It's about reading, very carefully reading all the different variables out there, from the weather to the sea conditions to your economics, and deciding, basically making an informed decision on whether or not you're going to try and risk catching a fish. And if you don't come back to getting a fish, you're in serious trouble. It's about survival. It's not about large profits. It's about trying to obtain and carry on in the fishing sector. A couple more pictures. These are lots of catches from Lambert's Bay. That's actually from last week. And fishers sell these not within their own community. They sell this to large companies. They sell it to large companies at a very low price. Fishers are price takers. And that resource, or the benefits of that resource, obviously only start accruing higher up the value chain in the exports. Same for the lionfish. In many fisher communities, when you go to restaurants there, a lot of the fish that is on the menu will have either come from outside South Africa or would have come via back to that area. So, of course, fishing rights are paramount. The small-scale fishing policy is the enabling environment for this whole program. But of course, we also need all the capacity and all the tools we can use. Now, in the past, in South Africa, various fishers who at least had a fishing right or had a permit, they were required by the government, by the fisheries authority, to fill in something we call a blue book. Okay? Something like this, where they had to submit their catches, write it down, and then submit it to some type of law enforcement who would come on a regular basis to the fisheries fishing community, that would then go to the central office, get captured and get analyzed by scientists. Various decisions would then be made around this data, and various new regulations would be imposed. No feedback whatsoever, and of course you can well imagine many fishers underreporting if they wanted to sort of have a strategy where they wanted the fisheries authority to think that they needed to allocate more, or they were over-reporting if they had sort of slightly different strategy and trying to show the fisheries authority that actually there was much more fish there than what they thought. So there's all these, of course, different strategies, but the bottom line is that the data quality, the information, the knowledge around some of this was extremely problematic. The conceptual flow of this whole system was problematic. There was no feedback, so regulations would be imposed. Fishers would say, well, hang on here, I would never come to that decision. I don't even agree with that decision. My whole image, my whole understanding of this fishery system is very different to what you're deciding here. There's no legitimacy for the decisions. That's the bottom line here. Okay? But then we want to move towards co-management. We want to move towards a system where fishers and government can work with one another. Well, that's quite a leap from what I've just described. So we definitely need to work on trust and legitimacy. And also, we don't know much about small-scale fisheries. Think about that second graph that I showed you earlier. They're very diverse, from Port Knowledge to Cozy Bay. We have a whole host of different fisheries for which we know little about. We've got this policy which is very visionary, it's very general, and now we need to implement it at a very localized, contextualized level, and it's going to be different all over the coast. So we need information around that. We need some type of knowledge around that. And then, of course, safety at sea is a key issue. I mean, fishers, especially along the west coast of South Africa, have accidents all the time. In fact, last week I was in Lambert's Bay, and as I arrived, 3 fishers had gone missing, and they only retrieved 2 of the bodies. And it could have been avoided. At the same time, I've talked about empowerment in the market. I've talked about fishers being in some type of system of servitude where they're really continuously trying to repay their loans, and they are continuously price takers in this whole value chain. And then most importantly, all the information, 90% of the knowledge around, the intricate knowledge around all these fishers sits in the fisher's head, sits in the community as local knowledge. That local knowledge needs to find a way, a policy mechanism, but of course a whole bunch of other mechanisms to find its way at the management table. So, what we're trying to do, as I mentioned, is develop this platform, this one-stop shop where fishers can engage in various things, and together with the fisheries authority, together with the fishers themselves, of course, we've come up with these 6 modules, the 6 modules that are in various stages of development. Module 1, which I'm going to unpack straight after this, is all, of course, about data recording, and how do you set that up in a completely different way to achieve trust and legitimacy, to develop a proper knowledge base around which we can implement a new policy. That's module 1. Module 2 is around the safety at sea. Certainly using a phone, is there no way we can use the phone as well to improve on the safety at sea of many fishers out there? And then we start moving ahead, we start moving towards the market. Fishers are getting organized into cooperatives. What about all the accounting needs they have? What about all the traceability and the transparency that they want to achieve? And then how do you connect a fisher or a cooperative with a market? You go to Hard Bay now, you go to the harbor, and you go to this restaurant called The Wharf, you look on their menu, they will sell hake from an industrial fishery, they will sell most likely calamari from Patagonia, they will sell New Zealand green mussels, and right next door there's a landing site where small-scale fishers offload their catch. A lot of that catch is considered potentially sustainable, or at least there's a story there around some type of benefits to your local community. But it's like 2 different worlds. I'm obviously painting an extreme picture here, and not always like that. There are restaurants who give it a go and have established some type of relationship. But overall, that's really what's out there. We have these small-scale fisher communities trying to make a living, trying to get the best price for their fish, trying to connect and develop some type of local economy above just selling it to a buyer who's going to export it. And then you have a restaurant who's trying to do the same, but they don't know about each other. Well, they know about each other, but there are all these obstacles in between. Okay? So that's module 4, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit later on. And of course, module 5 is around communication. How do you talk to one another? How do you engage with one another within your fisher community, between the fishers and the monitor and various fisheries officials, and at different scales. And then module 5, which we haven't worked on too much at the moment, of course, because we haven't implemented the small-scale policy, is around the knowledge base, around all the regulations, around meetings that could be happening. Basically, in a nutshell, we're trying to develop this hub for fishers and different stakeholders around this fishery to engage with one another. So how is this different? How is this different to other systems out there? Well, first of all, I told you it's free. Secondly, we're not sitting in a computer lab, or we're not working with a couple of private IT guys who can just put this out in a couple of weeks' times, and then we try and deploy it. We're really trying to develop it very iteratively, very carefully with various stakeholders. Of course, our starting point is fishers, but we're moving along the value chain as we go. And it really has to be fisher-driven, otherwise it's not going to work, and I'm going to come back to that. Fishers own the data, I've said this already, and I'm probably going to say it a few more time, but if they record it, if they use it, it's their data. And if they want to share it, that's up to them. And of course, there's all sorts of incentives for fishers to share the data, to engage with different stakeholders, but the starting point is their information. Okay? Instant feedback is critical. We couldn't just design an app that a fisher records data and then it goes to a server and then I analyze it or whatever. No, we needed to try and find a way that there's instant feedback. There's instant engagement with some of that information for the fishers to plan their next fishing activity, to plan their next buyer, to think through some of their fishing activities. Okay? It's open source. When I mean open source, the code is open source and the data not. And we want to try and develop something that, of course, is not just probably small-scale fishery and probably South African, but something that other groups, anybody out there really, can use, and I'm going to come back to that as well. Okay, our team, I'm very proud of this team. Why? Because half the people here are not necessarily from UCT, and we're working very closely with the Fisheries Authority. I'm not going to go through everybody here, you'll see some familiar faces, I'm sure. Abalobi here, he's an ex-UCT student. He was my master's student 2 years ago. He did his master's on this project. He's now Deputy Director of Small-Scale Fisheries at DAF. He's responsible to implement the small-scale fishery policy. And he's about to register. If he'd been here, I would have said this even louder. But he's about to register for a PhD here as well. Nico here. Nico is an interesting guy. Nico is a fisher. He's a fisher turned community leader, then worked for years in an NGO, and now he works full-time on this project, working with fishers through this iterative process of design. And then there's his entire team here, which is growing. I mean, there's some new faces in the room as well. And it's with this team that we're trying to take this forward. So we're not just a UCT multidisciplinary team, we're trying to be a transdisciplinary team. With fishers, with government, and of course with different people within our university. Internationally, we've got a bigger reach as well. I mean, we started working with various people within the FAO, of course, and then there's other initiatives out there. I heard about a new one just now, but there's other initiatives. This is not something new here. There are many other groups out there trying to connect, trying to use ICTs with fisheries or in fisheries in many different forms. And we're connecting with them as we go along, of course, especially if they have the same ethic of trying to approach this from a sort of fisher-driven development, trying to, of course, approach it from an open source development. I'm going to come back to that as well. Okay, module 1. So module 1, as I said, is all about data recording and reporting. And remember, I've told you about this whole blue book system, which is pretty much flawed. It doesn't work. And some of it is okay, but overall, in a context of co-management, in a context of cooperative governance, in the context of legitimacy, it doesn't work. And module 1 is trying to dive into that, trying to disrupt that and change it. Okay? So what we've done is, so far in module 1, we've developed a logbook for fishers. Okay? We call it the fisher logbook. And of course, we did start from the Blue Books. We're working with government on this project, so we did start from the Blue Books, but that was just the starting point. And then there are also monitors out there. The Fisheries Authority, through an expanded public work program, employs a whole host of monitors along the coast. We want to have them part of this project right from the beginning, especially because there's a lot of worry around the data quality that these monitors are generating as well. So we started working with the monitors. We developed a logbook, if you can call it like that, for this. There are various cooperatives, small cooperatives that were set up by the Department of Trade and Industry. And we're working with them as well, of course, because they are channeling, they are processing a batch of the catch from the various fishes. So that's module 1. But module 1 is all, or of course, about the implementation of the small-scale fishing policy as well. So what we did for the Fisheries Authority is we designed a module around identification. Remember, the Fisheries Authority is about to go out there and identify and register all these small-scale fisheries to start allocating, or to start the process of allocating community fishing rights. And they need some type of tool to do this. And they also want to develop a socio-economic baseline. As I said already a little bit earlier on, the small-scale fishing policy is very radical, it's very new, it's very ambitious as well. We need some type of baseline. We need to come back to this in 5 years' time and see if we've actually achieved and realize some of the objectives we had in the policy. Okay? Now that's a parallel system. We obviously designed this because we had the idea that in the long term this could be integrated with our Abalobi platform, but for now we don't want to be part of this. This is something the Fisheries Authority has to do, they've got to do this right. From an ethical point of view, there's no way we can be part of this. We only design the architecture, and they're running with this now. Okay, it's actually going quite well. But what I'm going to talk more about is, of course, the first part right here. Okay, in a nutshell, fishers have this logbook, their daily logbook. Some fishers have been doing this for years. They're writing them in a little booklet like this, but it's of course now an electronic logbook. It's an electronic logbook of a whole host of variables that they want to record that day, okay? Every day, whether they go fishing or they don't go fishing. And of course the reason for not fishing, and if they go fishing, some of the reasons for not catching anything, okay? And this sort of shows you what it looks like now, and of course, using a phone, you've got the GPS linked to it. You can set a whole host of conditions around some of the data entries here. Fishers can take pictures, they can write comments. There's a whole bunch of variables they can record. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they record a host of atmospheric, oceanic catch data and some of the processing, some of the costs they've had fishing, some of the profits they've made, some of the catch they've taken home for their own consumption. And as I said, we started with the forms from the Fisheries Authority, and we've turned it around completely. We've turned it around completely with fishers actually asking to add a whole bunch of things, and asking to add a whole bunch of variables that they wanted to build in their own diary. Okay, remember, it's their logbook, it's not mine, it's their logbook. They want to use that information to do all sorts of things. Okay? We've used, I'm going to talk a bit more about the technology behind this, but we've used this platform called Open Data Kit. Why? Because it's easy. It's easy to change things. It's easy to change things and to redeploy things. It's easy to set up, it's easy to learn from. Okay? I'm not a computer scientist. I can, in a fisher meeting, when we decide on changing various variables, changing various things in this learning process, I can sit down in the afternoon, change it, and the next day fishers have an updated form. That's how easy it is. It's a starting point, so it's a platform for us to start building on our idea and our own platform. At the moment, fishers record at the landing site, so they might take the phones out at sea to take pictures of various things they want to capture. But overall, they record at the landing site. It's part of this pilot, and they record a whole host of things. As I said, we're continuously fine-tuning and configuring this to try and really match it to what the fishing activities are like. And it's the same with the monitors. When we first started, okay, within the first month, when we started with the forms from the Fisheries Authority, and I looked at some of the information, only 10% of what the fishers had actually been catching had been recorded by the monitors. Now the monitors data is the only data that goes to the Fisheries Authority, but that's pretty scary. Now it's there. Okay? Again, by continuous workshops, working with one another, looking at the protocol monitoring, looking at how we do this, and using an electronic device which allows you to change things willy-nilly, trying to start matching what we're recording with what's actually going out there. Okay? And then, of course, the data is recorded, but you want to do something with this. So fishers have these dashboards. Okay? They have these dashboards which show them various graphs, various tables. Here we go. I can show you later on my phone or tablet here. But it shows them the total catches of the week, the total catches of the month, some of their expenses for that week, some of the income from that week as well. And it basically shows them various things. I mean, of course, they're recording a hell of a lot of variables, and we didn't want to overload this dashboard completely because it might be a bit, it might be apprehensive there, or you might sort of feel, this is a bit too much. So we, again, as part of, like we're designing this whole recording process, we're all slowly but surely creating and trying to design a dashboard, a visualization that helps fishers to think about the fishery in many different ways, with many different things. Okay? Originally, when we started designing these forms with the fishers, and all the fishers were adding all these things, I don't know, this is too much. This is going to take them like 20 minutes every day to do. But it's not. It's amazing how even if you add quite a few variables in there, quite a few things you want to go through, fishers do this in 2-3 minutes time. They do this every day, whether they go fishing or not, in a couple of minutes time. It's quite impressive, using a cell phone. Because they're so savvy with the cell phone, is something that they've actually been engaging with before. Okay? Same with the monitors. This guy here in particular, as you can see, is differently abled. He's a monitor from the Fisheries Authority. He's actually the son of a fisherman. And you can well imagine many fisher communities, there's a tradition of handing over your fishing practices from father to son throughout your family. Now, CS here, he couldn't do that. But he found himself a job as a monitor. Monitoring all sorts of other fishers, and his dad as well. Now, he struggles with the paper-based form, he struggles with the clipboard, and he actually has to write, in this particular area they catch a lot of yellowtail, he actually has to write this thing out 200, 300 times when there's a lot of catch. It's too difficult for him, it's cumbersome, and you can well imagine that he gets a lot of abuse thrown at him in these fisher communities, especially once outsiders come. So now he's got this tablet hangs around his neck, it takes him 3 minutes to do a bird. It's quite empowering. We've got a few pilot sites. I should have put the names there, but we're working at the moment in Port Nollet, Oneklik Bay, Lamberts Bay, Kleinmond, and Strauss Bay. And when I say we're working, is we're not just working on the technology, we're really going through the motions. We're going through careful motions of every month or every month and a half. We get together and we discuss this. We discuss what's working, what's not working, and what do we need to change, or what do we need to improve, how do we take this further. Okay? What is the data? What is some of the data saying? Spoke about data ownership. How it's set up right now is that, of course, the monitors work for the Fisheries Authority. They have a job. That data goes to a few fishery managers in Cape Town, and they engage with that information. But then the fishers record their own information. Some fishers leave it at that, but many fishers, of course, because it is a process towards gearing up for the implementation of the policy, share that information with others, or some of that information with others, with people like myself and other people within the community, and with fellow fishers as well. Okay? But ownership is not something that happens automatically. It's something that is part of the process. You know, fishers record it. It's their data. When they're ready, when we have these engagements, when they feel they want to put this type of knowledge on the table, then they can do that. So there's also some incentives, of course, for them to do so. But these arrangements evolve as we go along. Co-management is not going to happen tomorrow. It's something that we're going to have to learn. All of us, as a scientist, as a fisheries manager, as a community member. It's not something that's going to happen straight away. So we need to go through this. We need to muddle through this, and using that, of course, you can well imagine that many fisheries managers and many fisheries scientists within the Fisheries Authority would love to have this data, no doubt. They already want to, and some of them do, but overall it's a process, it's a trust-building process. Okay? And pilots are intending to do this. They're intending for us to learn about this technology, learn about how we put this whole thing together, and at the same time, it's a social learning endeavor. They help pilots, the process out there, are helping us muddling through and thinking about the realities of this small-scale policy. Now, talking about incentives, I need to give you a little bit of detail around fisheries, because many of you are probably not fisheries scientists or fisheries managers. But in a nutshell, very much in a nutshell, you get this pie. You get this pie of a particular resource, and that pie gets divided. It gets divided among the commercial sector, among the small-scale sector, among the recreational sector. Now that pie, how big that pie is, that is decided upon by resource scientists. Often resource scientists sit within the Fisheries Authority, they collect a whole bunch of dependent and independent data, it goes into a mathematical model, and in a good case, it directs the size of the pie. Okay? Of course, there's politics, but I'm not going to go into that now. And then there's also spatial arrangements. Fishers are able to work in particular areas. We have a very big conservation drive in South Africa. We also have marine protected areas. There's also areas where fishers can't fish. Okay? Now, in terms of incentives, there's this new small-scale policy. There's a new small-scale policy which allows fishers to be part of the decision-making process at how big this pie is. Okay? Also, of course, how this pie is divided, of course, that often ends up being very political, but how big this pie is. They have a chance to be part of this decision-making process. At the same time, they also need to show, they need to raise, they need to explain at the square management level what this basket of resources is. When do they fish? When have they been fishing traditionally? What's available in your area? And what your fishing practice is. Now you can well imagine using a phone with a GPS, recording your daily operations, developing this massive database for yourself or for your community. It's a good starting point towards engaging in these discussions. Okay? Now, talking about the size of this pie, as I said already, a lot of fishers feel that their local knowledge or their information about fishery is not put at the table. It's not put at the decision-making table. And now they've got an opportunity to decide how big this pie is. Not necessarily to make this pie bigger, but it could also be, of course, the other way around. They can make this pie smaller. I mean, fishers in Strauss Bay that are part of this island now have been arguing for the last 2 months that fishers there, and other fishers, of course, are over-harvesting a particular resource, that they are decimating a particular resource, carpenter. They want to raise this, whoa, hang on here. We need to cool it here, we need to be careful. And the other way around, of course, as well. There are other resources that may be underutilized, at least according to the fisheries. But we need some type of knowledge base which we can all talk about, and we can all share, from which we can make some decisions. So of course, from a sort of a long-term point of view, from a policy implementation point of view, there's a whole host of incentives for fishers to be part of this process. But even just from sort of a more basic point of view, fishers get this dashboard. They get their story that they can hand over to their kids. They can talk about in their community. They have this dashboard as well. They can certainly they have some type of record of what their activities are, what their revenues are. They can go to a credit facility. They can start thinking about better boats or safer boats or anything else that they may wish to do so. It gives them an overview of their economic viability. In terms of architecture, I've already said something about ODK, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to, first of all, not reinvent the wheel. Secondly, we're trying to use any open source platform out there that we can build on. And thirdly, I'm not a computer scientist, or I'm not a programmer. We're working with people now, but at the beginning we didn't, so we need to find a tool that is as DIY as possible. And Open Data Kit allows us to do that. I mean, we've moved we made it very complex and we sort of made it our own since then. But in a nutshell, fishers record information, it goes to a server, it gets processed to some type of database management system, which is called Salesforce, and then it comes back into their dashboard. And by sort of defragmenting or sort of deconstructing this sort of recording and reporting, we are able to tweak and change continuously at how this thing looks, how this thing is useful for fishers, is useful at different levels in the management process, and of course how it improves on data, secures data quality, secures data ownership as well. At the same time, we have various community workers that work with us on this project in the pilot sites, and they get PDFs every month of the catches. They put it in the LibreArch file, and it's a physical record that is available for a fisher to consult anytime. And one of them happens to have a commercial right. He has to still fill in this blue book, and the Fisheries Authority a couple of months ago came back to him and said, hey, you didn't fill it or you didn't submit for last month. And he said, well, I did, I posted it. It never reached the Fisheries Authority, thank goodness. It was using this application as well. We just sent him the PDF, printed it out in his local community center, and he submitted that. Okay? So that's just sort of a way of showing you how we use it at the moment. Again, in terms of sort of more technical or IT-related issues, everything that we've done so far is on GitHub, and we've developed a wiki for all the processes that we've done, how we're designing the forms, how we're linking it with other platforms. So basically what I'm trying to say is anybody out there, anybody out there right now can go through that and start doing whatever we're doing. That's the idea behind this project. At the same time, of course, we want to move ahead, and we're trying to work on something called EK2 now, which is quite similar to EK1, but it's allowing us to really build our platform, to build our one-stop shop, to allow sort of more of a two-way sync between the data and what's happening on the phone, and to connect various components from a chat integration to a web service, and basically develop this one-stop shop. At the same time, we're also playing around with something called Salesforce, and Salesforce, the best way to describe it is, I suppose, it's like Microsoft Access on steroids. It's an extremely powerful platform to really figure out data ownership, data flow, which is crucial for our project. And at the same time, it's interesting for us from a computer science point of view, thinking through, okay, well, long-term, upscale, other countries using this, hosting of multiple instances of this whole thing. So as we're learning with fishers on designing this thing, we're also very much learning from a computer science point of view on which platforms to use. I'm not going to go through that right now. We're playing around now with something called Heroku. It's a cloud platform that is able for us, allowing us to host a version of our app, and we're testing that. Why? Because we want to try and reach, and if you are familiar with fisheries, what I'm about to say, you don't think that's never going to happen. But if you think about a small-scale policy and about where we're trying to go from a fisheries management, fisheries governance point of view, it's something like this. It's something where a crew member, whether you are just a crew member or you also happen to be the boat runner of that boat, and you record your catch, and then it becomes visible on the captain's log, because he needs to remember, he needs to still pay for all the overheads, and it then goes through to the monitor who records various instances, and it then goes through to the co-management forum, either the cooperative, if it's around obviously trying to sell the resource and find what to do with accumulated catch, or around the co-management committee where you talk about trends, where you talk about what is going on with the fishery, what do we need to tweak, what are we doing too much of, what are we not doing enough of. Okay. That's where we're going, and using Salesforce and is really helping us to think through how do you share this information, what is the flow of all of this information, because you don't want to end up sitting with 5 different databases. Okay. What do we aspire to? Right, we aspire to be like Comcare. We aspire to develop a platform out there. I don't know if you're familiar with OpenMRS, but we aspire to develop something that, again, any group out there can configure, can reuse, can deploy. Something that is, of course, private South African, private small-scale fishers, but something that can be used everywhere. Why? Because the story that I told you about the fishers arguing for their fishing rights, taking government to court, that's not just a South African story, that is a worldwide story. Small-scale fishers world over are marginalized, and And again, this is just in a nutshell, but the United Nations, the Food and Agricultural Organization, has something called the Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries. Okay? It's some type of legal document that most countries try and adhere to. It's a best practice approach. Now, that Code of Conduct, up until not so long ago, was not silent, but wasn't very specific on small-scale fishing issues and how do you manage, how do you go about developing governance models for small-scale fisheries, which are completely different from commercial fisheries. Okay? Now, many small-scale fisher groups supporting NGOs out there in lobbying the FAO for a long time now to change that and to change that and to develop some type of instrument that they could use, fishers could use, or that governments could use, or any other stakeholder could use to think through best practice, to think through how do you approach small-scale fisheries management, all its complex human dimensions and also complex ecological dimensions. So now again, last year the United Nations published this thing called the Guidelines for Securing Small-Scale Fisheries. And look, it's a non-binding document, but a lot of the stuff that's in there is binding, is legally binding. And again, it's a tool that fisher groups, fisher organizations, federations are using out there to lobby their governments and say, hey, we need to approach small-scale fisheries a bit differently. Why? Because we contribute to food security, we may have over-harvesting problems, but there's a whole host of value chain issues that we need to tackle, there are a whole host of gender issues that we need to tackle. They're there, don't forget about them. And again, a tool like Abalobi, in any form that it could end up with, could be used out there as well. And if you search, if you do a Google search around ICTs for small-scale fisheries, I said earlier on that there were a whole host out there, but in actual fact they're not really. I mean, there might be some that are all about trying to nab small-scale fishers to use satellite tracking or to use GPS to see if they're catching within a marine protected area. That might be necessary, but there are very few sort of very fisher-driven ICT tools out there. And we started to collaborate actually with a whole bunch of groups out there. We're also keen to share some of their codes, share some of their lessons around all of this. Okay, now some critical questions around this. Local knowledge, I've spoken a few times about local knowledge. Now, local knowledge is way more than a bunch of variables. Local knowledge is how a fisher or a fisher community engages with a fishery system, from deciding on where they're going to fish, to understanding change in the system, to understanding change in the social system and engaging with that social system as well. So local knowledge is much bigger than what we're trying to do in Module 1. Nevertheless, it's a starting point. It's a starting point to try and bring some of the more top-down scientific approaches that we've seen in South Africa with some type of more bottom-up based approaches. Okay, it's a starting point to find a link, to find a connection point between the two. In fact, if you look at this one, it's probably easier. Fishers have a whole bunch of rules, they have a whole bunch of formal, informal arrangements within their communities on how they even engage with the fishery. Okay. Now, the Fisheries Authority has the same informed by a whole bunch of international obligations, informed by science, informed by the best available science. Some of it is really good, some of it is not so good. Okay. We need to try and find that middle way where these two knowledge bases, these two systems almost, engage with one another in a more constructive way. Okay. And of course, the policy is the enabling environment. The policy is what's going to try and push everybody to take this paradigm shift to go there. But again, what we're trying to do at Abalobi is to find those connection points, to find a connection point for the Fisheries Authority to really engage with this, and to engage with this information, to engage with what is happening out there, and of course the fishers themselves to engage, who have a particular way of doing things, to engage with the Fisheries Authority. Okay. In terms of uptake, this is where it gets quite exciting. So, in a nutshell, at the moment, we have fishers and monitors and cooperatives out there using cell phones or tablets loaded with Module 1, okay, the whole dashboard function. We try to integrate some type of chat so we can communicate with one another on a daily basis. There's a whole bunch of other applications that we put on the device, but overall we've sort of locked phone functions and SMS functions mainly because we want to try and track how much data this whole thing is using, and if we're not making this thing too expensive to use. But they've got these tools. They've got these tools, and they use it on a daily basis. Okay? I'll just come back to these slides. But at the moment, we're starting in August, and monitors, there's a few monitors along the coast that put in more than 240 entries, so that's almost every day since August, and fishers, we are more than 1,000 entries. And we've got, in the database, fishers have got the whole lobster catch from 3 sites of the last couple of months. Okay? Now that's data that the fisheries authorities never had. Okay? More than 7,000 yellowtail was recorded by monitors, and about 8 ton of that was caught by local fishers. We've got more than 40 different species. I mean, if you go out there and you read newspapers, you hear about snook, about yellowtail, about lobster. We've got more than 40 different species recorded in the system. Monitors record at the landing site. Fishers don't just go and fish out at sea and come back to the landing site. They also go along the shore. They go and harvest octopus, mussels, white mussel that they use for bait that they sell. And we've got all these fishers recording things like white mussel as well, which were never featured in any database before. Okay? Over the last month in the Northern Cape, on the Klubai in particular, more than 10,000 snook was recorded in our system. And in the trekking net in Strasbourg, we've got more than 8 ton of mullet. So those are serious numbers. Those are serious numbers that have been recorded by fishers using this every day. Why? Because it's handy for them. It's something they actually can engage with. It's not about. Of course, there's longer-term incentives which are part of this program, this project, and the implementation of the policy, but there's short-term and tangible benefits of using a logbook. And I mean, this is some interesting things fishers have been saying. So, as I said earlier on, they don't just record the catch, they also record a whole host of oceanic and atmospheric variables. And fishers know a week or 2 in advance if a red tide is going to occur. I don't know if you know what a red tide is, but it's an algae bloom that often occurs along the west coast, and it causes oxygen depletion in the inshore waters, and if it gets really bad, it either can be poisonous or it generates what we call a lobster walkout, with tons and tons of lobster walkouts. Now fishers, of course, with their vast local knowledge, know and can read ingredients. They can suspect when things are not going so well here. The sea conditions are changing, the water is changing, the environment is changing, we're heading towards some type of oxygen depletion. They're recording this in the app, they're recording this long time in advance. Okay? These are some of the tools that they're using for themselves. And then they start talking about it, they start raising the alarm bells, because it's not just one fisher recording it, it's a whole bunch of other fishers recording this as well. Okay? Help attract youth back in the traditional fishing sector. This is a key thing. Many of the fishers are quite old, but they want their sons or their kids to be interested in the fishery. It's something they're using quite an interesting device, and they're using an app. And so one of the fishers was joking that his son suddenly started saying, "Hey, Dad, geez, what's this device that you're using? What's this app that you're using? Yes, Dad, you with it, you know." And then in the chat is the most funny part, where we've got this ongoing discussion within fisher communities and between fisher communities around this platform. But fishers end up chatting about, of course, they talk about rugby and all sorts of stuff, but then one of the fishers, but they chat about important things too. And one of the fishers said that the other day, his wife said, "Who is this Abalobi woman that you keep chatting to?" but more importantly, one of the fishers said he was joking that several years ago, fishing became so complex that they needed to take their accounting fishing, their accountants with fishing, and now they've got this device that can do a lot of things. And again, even more importantly, they're establishing some type of working relationship. Yeah, that's part of this project. They come to these meetings. They come to these meetings with an open mind, okay, and they discuss all these things around the implementation of policy, around the fishery. We want to enable any type of stewardship of our marine resources, and fishers to play an active role in sustainable management of resources. That's where we start. Okay? Everything is changing. Why should we stay the same? Look at how technology is advancing. I can't live with the technology my grandfather used. That's quite interesting. One of the officials said that. But a couple of months ago, one of the fishers from Strasbourg came into the harbor, and remember I said they were price takers, I'm nearly there. They were price takers in the market. They get a really bad price for their catch. One of the fishers, and they've got a lot of costs going out there, you can well imagine fuel is expensive. One of the fishers said to the other guys, look, we usually get 20 rand per kg for our red Roman. This is impossible, this is unviable for me, we can't do this, guys. I'm going to ask for 40 rand, just give you an example. I'm going to ask for 40 rand, are you with me, are we doing this together? Are we doing this? Because if I don't do this, and you don't do this, I'm stuffed. So anyway, he was one of the first ones at the landing site, offloaded his catch. The buyer who driven with his refrigerated truck from Cape Town said, oh, 20 rand a kg, that's my price. The fish is over. No. 40 rand a kg, that's it. I've gone far, I've got my crew to pay for it, I've got serious expenses. 40 rand is still a good price. The buyer, of course, said, well, Steph, you will ask other guys who also came with catch artificial species more from sort of the southern part, even the eastern part of our country, things like keelback, which we also call Cape salmon, and yellowtail. They're starting to see it swimming with the swim shoals and with the tuna shoals. They're starting to see change. Now they want to fish for yellowtail, but fishing for yellowtail requires particular skills, not something that you can do. Of course, if some of you were going out of salmon stock on one of those recreational boats with the best equipment, you might catch a yellowtail, but as a fisher with your basic equipment, it requires serious skills to catch a yellowtail. Now, fishers in Strasbourg, they have 11 different names for yellowtail, for one species based on their local knowledge. Okay? 11 different names based on where the fish comes from, what time of the year, how it swims, or which banks it comes, based on a whole host of variables. They've got very, very deep local knowledge. Now, they know how to catch yellowtail, they're yellowtail experts. They start chatting with fellow small-scale fishers in Lambert's Bay about how to do this. How do you do this? Can we come learn from you? What bait do you use? How do you fish? There's a whole bunch of things that you need to know about how to catch yellowtail. When I saw this happening on the chat upon my work, what did I just do? I'm increasing fishing effort here to this app. Then I thought this through a bit more. And in fact, we're developing a framework where fishers are engaging with one another around change, and at the same time they're recording their catches and observing trends. So all of this is happening within a framework where we're able to see exactly what is going on with the various resources, and fishers can see it from one another. And that is quite powerful. Okay? And there's hundreds more examples. Okay. We've received quite a lot of media attention, from some very nice stuff to this one here, which I never thought I made it in the tabloids. This project featured in this song. And it's a good article, and it helps people think through the small-scale policy and how we go about it. So I know I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to start wrapping up here. But in a nutshell, we've embarked on this. It's something that started off as a participatory action research project by myself and a student, and slowly but surely is evolved into this massive program driven basically by fishers and in partnership with the Fisheries Authority. Now that's something that is very hard to achieve. That's something that's not easy. Look, we fight often, of course, we often have disagreements, but at least we've embarked on some type of partnership. We're muddling through this whole social learning experiment. That's what it is. What is together. We're starting to think through what this whole small-scale policy is about. There are about 100 fishers involved in this program, about 10 monitors, and of course the Fisheries Authority, a whole bunch of students as well. Where do we need to go? Of course, we need to expand on this. We need to go beyond just analyzing the existing data in terms of dashboards, but dive in a bit deeper. We need to raise more awareness. We need to raise transparency around this project. And I've embarked on a massive social media campaign to really show what we're doing and what we're not doing. Because you can well imagine that working in the fisher community is not very easy. There's all these informal arrangements. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of power by marketers. And looking at something like this, they might be not so happy about it. So we need to make sure that even though we might disrupt some of these practices and offer fishers other opportunities, we need to navigate through this. We want to expand into the Eastern Cape because we have done as soon as possible. It's already translated in is it Xhosa and Zulu? So we're kind of ready to roll. And we want to co-design, further develop this whole platform and co-design it with fishers. So we're not just having a development team sitting in a sort of an office or behind computers, but are really carefully engaging with various stakeholders around this thing. We can't afford this thing not to work. Okay, so the dark blue ones are where we're working now. This is where we want to expand on. And my last slide really is that this project is helping me, is helping people in our group really think through how do we produce knowledge. How do we produce knowledge? Coming from a scientific angle, it's often been about science policy. You develop science and then you give your recommendation to policy. This project and how we're trying to achieve this within the ambit of the small-scale policy, within an ambit of transdisciplinarity, you want to try and rather develop something around science with policy, how difficult that may be. Okay? And we're learning around that. We're learning about that in this iterative process. And remember that many members here of our team also linked with the implementation of the small-scale policy. And lastly, this whole thing is open source because we want, of course, to develop a tool that is available to anybody out there. But it's also an open door, and that is why I agreed to give this seminar here. And if you feel this is interesting and you feel you want to ask some critical questions as well, or you want to be part of some of these processes, this thing has grown much bigger than what I can do. It's grown much bigger. We need a large team of many different departments within UCT and other universities to embark on this process. If this is to become the tool to implement to help implement the small-scale policy. In November, the fisheries, the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, who knows a lot about this project, during World Fisheries Celebration, endorsed this to become the official catch management system for the small-scale policy. Now, that's quite a big thing. We're not there yet. And to reach that, it's sort of all hands on deck. So if any student here, or any staff member, or anybody really here is interested in participating in either as a researcher or giving advice or in any role they may imagine for themselves, the door is wide, wide, wide open. Thank you very much. Questions? Yes, at the back. So I don't know your name.
Hi, I'm Thomas. Well, thank you very much for that fantastic talk. Certainly one of the more exciting sort of deployments of ODK, especially in lieu of yesterday's ODK talk as well. You talked about the narratives that fishers might construct around the data they collected on a trip. So I'm just kind of contrasting that in my head to, I mean, if you look at the database, which is at the center of your architecture, a database is by definition an unordered collection of data. So that sort of narrative is lost in that transformation. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think are some of the consequences of thinking of and approaching the world with sort of a database as a lens?
It's a critical one. And it's something that I'm often uncomfortable around, because the image fishers have of a particular fishery is designed in a whole different ways, much larger and much more complicated than just a database. So I'm not arguing here that we're trying to condense this or sort of precipitate this image into a database, and it's something that we've been very clear on with fishers as well. All their local knowledge needs to come to that co-management table, not just the stuff they record on this app, not just the database around this. But many fishers also are being very much exposed to these type of approaches to fisheries management. That's sort of the currency out there. Or they might use a more database approach or variable approach to all sorts of other things they do in their lives, from their kids at school to anything really. So again, it's just a tool. It's a tool in the larger toolbox, in the larger sort of construction of knowledge around fishery. But why it's a powerful tool, because it's a first point of engagement with the fisheries authority. Okay? And that's the only thing we're trying to do. We're trying to sort of stimulate that trust building, developing, having a table where everybody sits at the same table and talks about the same stuff, or at least kind of can talk about the same stuff. There must be some connection points, and that's really what this thing is trying to do. There's a whole bunch of other research out there that needs to be done. There's a whole bunch of recognition that needs to happen around this concept of local knowledge is much broader. So I'm definitely not trying to sort of push it into an app or a box. That's definitely not it. And it really is just some basic variables that fishers can use to engage in various activities around their fishing. Yes, Kevin.
Serge, I was interested to see you showing the graphs as outputs for the fishers. Very often the public, even reasonably well-educated members of the public, struggle with graphs. Do you find the fishers are using that, or
It's
most of the
interesting,
fishers?
yeah. So, of course, I'm used to graphs, I'm used to histograms, and fishers may not. So, I mean, what you see there are histograms. And they're also just, what we're trying to work on now, which we're hoping to get students on board now as well, with Brian as well, is to rethink that a bit more, to rethink this visualization into something that is more adapted to what fishers can engage with. But I do have to say that so far, it's been quite well received. So far, the fishers have actually asked for these type of charts, maximums and totals. But that's also because we're working in pilots in the Western Cape. As we're moving in other places, I was in Ebenezer last week, which is a small fisher community along a river in the Western Cape as well, or at least up the coast. We can't work with histograms. We have to think that in a different way. And I'm pretty sure that as we work along the coast, we might have to approach it again in another way. But again, so far, sort of the graphs are working quite well. But because fishers have been exposed to that, and they are able to engage in this.
I had a couple questions regarding sort of study setup and maybe financial sustainability in the long run.
Yeah.
So, do you provide incentives for fishermen to participate in your pilot? Are you giving them the phone? Who pays for the phone? Like, once this gets handed over to the government, who pays for the airtime, the data bundles, and I guess who's funding it?
Okay, well, that's a whole bunch of questions. Okay, so this project didn't start last year when we started with the first pilots. This project started since I've been in South Africa and since I've been engaging with fishers along the coast. I moved from the Eastern Cape to UCT in 2009, and most fishers that are part of the project now have been working with for a very long time. So there's been a relationship for a very long time with them. So it's not something new for them. Or at least working with me or working with us is not something new, and sort of continuation of a whole bunch of things. Sort of come that way. In terms of the phones, it's tricky. Right now, we got a really good deal from Proline, and we got a whole bunch of phones, and we loaded the stuff on, we blocked all the other stuff, and we worked through a way of identifying several fishers that were interested in trying this out. And there were quite a few. But that is changing now, where a whole bunch of other fishers are very keen on working with us and want to use their own phones. They want to use their own phones. So we need to try and work very hard with Ryan and Eduardo on not having all these different buttons on the phone and trying to sort of have this one app. There are a whole host of fishers out there who are keen to just use their own phones, use their own airtime. Some fishers may not be able to afford airtime. So thinking through the sustainability of this whole thing, we need to be careful. I've been engaging quite closely with something called the Wireless Access Providers Association of South Africa, and through their social responsibility, we're very keen on setting up little Wi-Fi hotspots in the harbors, in fishing harbors along the coast. And I think they want to set up one in one of our pilots quite soon, so the fishers can just come with their devices and connect and do their thing, which might be quite nice. It might be sort of a hub for us to start discussing things. Local municipalities, the Cedarburg municipality in Lambertsbaai and Elandsbaai, they're very keen on helping fishers be part of this program. So they're thinking through a whole bunch of ideas around keeping fishers with phone, but also we need to be careful of not having this project be just a project that issues out phones. I mean, the phones that are out there that come from this project, they're useless. I mean, they're completely locked. You can't do anything to except run the project through. In terms of long-term sustainability, there's a whole bunch of ideas we have around the cooperative, and the cooperative who can subsidize or can afford its members to have basic funds and to have fair time as well. Okay. There were a few other questions you had.
Who's funding it?
Okay, who's funding this at the moment? Okay, well, you can see it here. Our proof of concept, we had a bit of funding through the Geological Foundation. It was channeled through WWF as a sort of some sort of broker. And they were very keen on expanding this, but they were quite keen on commercializing this whole app. So thank you. The Fisheries Authority has put in a lot of in-kind support. Remember, all these monitors along the coast. There's a lot of staff within the Fisheries Authority that work with us, and they've also funded these other modules. And then my NRF research grant. And then last week, I heard that we got a seed grant from the Technology Innovation Agency to take some of the work around the value chain further. But yeah, we are appealing and rewriting proposals left, right, and centre. I think sort of an ideal world, this got the Fisheries Authority written all over it. In the current environment, and also in the current environment with fishes, this might not be the best idea. So we are approaching a whole bunch of other funders as well to take this forward and really get a development team to work on this full time, and of course get a field team and connect with it at the same time. But it's actually amazing how much in-kind or pro bono support there's been for this project. I mean, we've got, of course, students working on this, but we've got a whole bunch of fishers working on with this day in, day out, wanting to develop something that not just doesn't work for them, but works for other fishers in their community. And then Salesforce is this interesting beast. They've got the Salesforce Foundation, and I just obtained a license for them. But they're interested in this project from their corporate social responsibility point of view, and they've put a whole team of developers onto the Salesforce side of things without any costs to us, which is interesting because there's no expectation. I mean, you can't. They're welcome, of course, to be part of the process, but there's no commercial outcome here. But it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting use of ODK, of course, but it's also an interesting use of Salesforce, which they have never delved into before, and they've got a large non-profit program as well.
Okay, I think at this point we're going to break and continue the conversation over snacks and tea and everything, and then we can say thanks one more time to